My name is Barb Safaris, and thank you for joining us this morning. This is just an introduction to Charting the Life course. And I'll explain more why we're doing it and what you can expect from this session. I am an Ohio ambassador for Charting the Life course, and I work through the Nisonger Center at The Ohio State University. I also have the opportunity to do some work nationally, coaching ambassadors for Charting the Life course and also doing training for the national or the Nexus team at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And our work is provided by the Family Resource Network of Ohio through funding from the Department of Developmental Disabilities. Again, this is just an introduction. If you're interested in more information about Charting the Life course, please go to our website, frnohio.org, Family Resource Network of Ohio. And you can sign up when you go to the page. It immediately prompts you, do you want to sign up? Sign up for our constant comment emails, telling you about other opportunities to learn more about Charting the Life course, opportunities about meetings, and also we have resources on the website, and I'll probably repeat that a couple of times. So a little bit about me. I had two younger brothers. Jim was my middle brother. Nick was 4 years younger than me, and he was diagnosed with a developmental disability when he was just barely 6 months old, and I was just 4 going into kindergarten. Nick was not eligible for any kind of supports from the systems until he was an adult. So all of the supports he received and our family received were all private pay until he was 20. How old was he? I think till he was about 20. Jim was hurt in an accident in his 30s that affected his ability to earn a living and also to get through his day. He needed supports to do things that we all do to get through our days. And he was never eligible for any kind of paid supports or any kind of supports from the system. I retired from the Cuyahoga County Board of DD. I worked there for 36 years. My background is as a speech language pathologist, but I also worked as an SSA and in a variety of other roles. I want to thank Tracy Manns, our Family Resource Network of Ohio coordinator. She's waving. And thank her for setting this up, for doing all the work to set up the FRNO, to get information out, and to support me whenever I do any kind of training or information. So thank you, Tracy. You have handouts. You should have 4. We sent you the PowerPoint in a PDF, the Charting the Life course portfolio, and 2 infographics, two-page handouts on just background information about Charting the Life course, giving you kind of a snapshot of what is Charting the Life course. If you have questions, we are a small group. If you have questions, please type them in chat whenever you have them. Tracy and I will look at them, respond. If we don't see it and respond, please unmute and just ask me. Call our names and we'll know you have a question. So let's set the stage. This is an overview. It's an introduction. And we said it is for the pre-showcase. So let me explain the word showcase. We are having our Ohio Showcase on May 12th in Westerville at the Renaissance Hotel. And we call it a showcase. It's not a conference. It's not a training per se. but it is a showcase. And that means what we're really going to do is not teach you what Charting the Life course is, but we're going to showcase how people are using Charting the Life course in their lives, how people with lived experience and families are using Charting the Life course, and how it supports and empowers them to identify and work towards the life they want and value. And also, we're going to showcase how professionals are using Charting the Life course, how it helps them do their jobs and support and empower people and families. You'll hear from people working with people and families across the lifespan. We'll have some people sharing how they're supporting people in early childhood and school age and transition and adults. And you'll hear people talk about supporting people of all abilities and across service systems, early intervention, developmental disabilities, education, recovery. I'm trying to think what else. And people who just aren't eligible for services, who don't receive paid supports through a service system. So we hope you can join us. Again, the information is on the website that Tracy put in the chat, frnohio.org. So during this session, what I want to do is just introduce you to the principles and framework of Charting the Life course. So if you attend our showcase, and we hope you do, we hope that's why you're attending this pre-showcase session, that you'll have some familiarity with the principles and the framework, and the language won't sound foreign to you. I'm going to introduce you to some of the most common tools that are used in Charting the Life course. Please do not think this is all of the tools. There are many, many, many tools in Charting the Life course. And also, so you'll know some common language that we use in Charting the Life course. It is different than maybe the language you've heard used if you work in a system, or if you are a family member, or if you receive supports from a system. So Charting the Life course, what I love about Charting the Life course is it is the only person-centered approach that was developed by and for people with disabilities and their families. On the left side of the screen, you see a lot of icons, and we use a lot of icons, visualizations in our information, as you see on the infographics that we sent to you as handouts, but also on the tools, because we want them to be user-friendly. Ohio is part of a national community of practice supporting families. It is hosted by NASDS, which is the National Association of State Directors of Developmental Disability Services. And in Ohio, our state director is Kim Hauk, and the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And I'm going to ask everyone to please mute. I can hear someone. And the beauty of being part of a national community of practice is we get to hear what other people are doing in other states with people across the lifespan, across abilities. But also we in Ohio get to share with the rest of the nation what we're doing. And actually, 2 weeks ago, the Nexus, or the national group, the Nexus, had their showcase in Kansas City, and several people from Ohio attended in person, and several people attended virtually. And several of us actually shared what we're doing in Ohio with people across the country, as well as we learned from others. So that is a community of practice. In Charting the Life course, we often talk about why. Why do we do this? And in Ohio, our why is we want everyone, people, families, professionals, to use Charting the Life course to support and empower people and families, for professionals to use it to do their work so they can do their work in a better and with more rich information from people and families. And we also want to build an understanding of common language so that when families talk about their trajectory, everybody knows what they mean. When professionals talk about trajectory, families and people receiving supports know what they mean. And this is our Ohio trajectory. In the purple bubble, what we want. In the green, what we don't want, which is just as important to identify when we're talking about our lives, what we want, what we don't want. What we don't want is people to just see Charting the Life course as a bunch of forms or extra work, or if people or families share information, it's not valued. And we also want to, what we don't want to see is that professionals complete the forms and don't do it with people and with families. So in Ohio, we are sharing information about Charting the Life course. We provide the information and the training under a grant from the Department of DD. So it is provided without cost. If any of you are aware of a group of people receiving supports, professionals, families, please contact us at frnohio.org. We are happy to provide information and help you learn more about Charting the Life course and how to use it, whether you're a person receiving supports, families, or professionals. In Ohio, we have a community of practice. So that's another term we use. We do trainings, we share information, but we have a showcase. We also have a community of practice that meets quarterly on Zoom. Our next meeting actually is tomorrow, April 27th at 10 o'clock, and you can register by going on frnohio.org. But it's an Ohio community of practice. So we share, a community of practice is a group of people who are passionate about something. Could be anything, could be literacy, could be math, could be ecology. Our community of practice is passionate about supporting people and families using Charting the Life course. So when we come together as a community of practice, again, it's not an opportunity to teach you about Charting the Life course. It's about hearing what other people are doing, what's working, maybe some of their concerns, and to get support from other people who are passionate about Charting the Life course. So we hope you consider joining our community of practice. Charting the Life course, their why do they exist? They want everyone. We want everyone and their families. So everyone, not just people with disabilities, but everyone to have the life they value, that they have the right to live, love, work, play, learn, and pursue their life aspirations in their community. And this is really also comes from federal law. So why we do this is, if you could all mute, that would be great. Why we do this is because we want everyone to have the life they value in their community. We want everyone to have a good life. So the person, that we're focusing on, and trust me, it doesn't need to be somebody receiving services. It could be anybody. So as I shared, my brothers did not receive paid supports for most of their life. But we want everyone to have the civil right of self-determination or control over their life. We want people to be interdependent. None of us is independent. None of us does everything for ourselves. We are interdependent. We depend on others. I don't grow my own food. I didn't build my house. I didn't build my car. I don't cut my grass. I don't fix things in my house. I depend on others. And we want everyone to feel productive and be part of their community. We want families to feel supported and that their strengths and their resilience is recognized and supported so they can support the people they love. So we need to look at supports in a different way. We all know that we need to be person-centered, and that doesn't matter what system you're working in. When I take my partner to the Cleveland Clinic, the first thing they ask is, gee, George, what do you want? And then they ask me, what are your concerns? What are you looking for? So we want to recognize not only the person, but who they are in the context of their family and their community, family being whoever they define. So when we talk about charting the life course, it's about having different conversations. It's, as we often say in person-centered thinking, the power is in the question you ask because you get what you're asking for. So we ask different kinds of questions. We want to think differently. Our end is that we want to help people identify and have the life they value, not have services that we can give them, but have a life they value. We encourage high expectations, so we don't ever want to say, no, you can't, but let's find out more. Let me understand what that means to you. Let's see what we can do. We also realize the importance of having life experiences. You can't identify what you want if you've not experienced different things, because through experience, we identify what we like, what we don't like, what we want, and what we don't want. And it's about looking at a variety of different supports, not just the service system. It's not about tools and it's not a program. And it's for anyone. I've seen families with babies use the principles and tools of charting the life course. I've seen families with parents who are in their 90s experiencing dementia use charting the life course to figure out, what does mom want for the rest of her life? And as a speech language pathologist, I will tell you that when we are person-centered, we gather information from people from their words and their actions. And so I have never met anyone that someone who knows them well, either a family member, a staff member, cannot tell me what they like, what they don't like, what they want, and what they don't want. And think about why we say words and actions. How many of you have ever been asked, how are you? And you answer, I'm fine. And you are not fine. Okay. And maybe you look really worn out. And maybe your eyes are red because you've been crying. We gather information from people's words and their actions. How many of you have said, oh yes, I tried to lead a healthy lifestyle. And as you're professing this, you're pulling out a piece of chocolate or you're eating a piece of cake. We gather information from people's words and actions. In charting the life course, we have 8 principles, and I'm going to refer to them as I talk more about charting the life course. First of all, please know this is for all people, from birth through the end of life, whether or not they have a disability, whether or not they are receiving paid services from any service system. And again, at our community of practice meeting and also at our showcase, you're going to hear people share what they're doing in the medical, service system, in the early intervention, in DD, in, oh goodness, education. I'm trying to remember, in recovery. So it doesn't matter what labels people have. It's for all people. I've used it in my life for myself, for relatives that do not receive any kind of services. We also recognize the importance of the family system and the cycle of our families. So we recognize that, you know, think about any of you. If you live with anyone else, your life, what happens to you impacts the other people you live with. What happens to those people impacts you. If someone becomes sick, all of a sudden people in the family are doing different things to take care of that person, maybe doing things they typically do. If someone leaves and goes away to college, it impacts the whole family system. And we recognize the importance of the family. We recognize that we all go through life stages. So you see the icons of the baby all the way through adults that are aging, and having a trajectory or a vision of what we want our life to be. And it changes across our life stages. You know, for babies, probably parents are saying, you know, they just like to play with this toy, or they like to watch Peppa Pig, or they like to watch Disney movies. That's their vision of a good life. And they like to eat certain foods. But as we move through our life stages, our vision changes. I want to do something meaningful in my life. I want to have my own place. I want to have a car. And then the importance of having life outcomes and experiences that help us identify those outcomes. So I always tell people, I don't know if I enjoy country music because I've never listened to it, really. So I don't know if I want to go to a concert of country music because I don't have that experience. So how do I know if I want to do that? In Charting the Life course, we talk about 6 life domains, and I'll go through those quickly later. And the reason that they're important is because the Department of Developmental Disabilities has included those 6 life domains in the new Ohio ISP, which is being rolled out probably over the next year or two. We talk about 3 buckets of support, that we all have needs in 3 areas whenever we have a concern, and that we need support in those 3 areas. And then, as I said before, we talk about not just getting services, but getting services and supports in integrated areas, 5 different areas. And that's our integrated support star. And then we want people and families to be involved in policy and systems change from the local level. So are people with lived experience and families involved in work groups for an agency? Are they on the boards? Do they have a voice at the state level? Do they talk to legislators? Do they talk to the departments of DD or education or whatever? And then are they impacting at the federal level? And are they included? So we focus on the person, but it doesn't mean the person versus the family. We look at the person in the context of the family, and we value family engagement. We know that most people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Ohio live with family. I think it's 67%. And another 18% only lives with one other person and is supported by family. And only 15% live in what we consider residential settings, the state institutions, ICFs, or group homes. So we know the importance of family engagement and recognizing their importance. As a sibling, I can't talk about families without talking about siblings. And if you are working, or if you are a sibling, excuse me, if you are a sibling, please know that there is support. There is Sibling Leadership Network. There is a closed Facebook page for adults who have brothers and sisters with any disability, not just intellectual developmental disabilities, but mental health, physical health, chronic medical issues, any kind of disability. And please remember that siblings often play a role in supporting their brothers and sisters. And we often call ourselves the club sandwich generation, because we may be caring for adult aging parents, our own brothers or sisters, and our own children. In charting the life course, we recognize reciprocity, that we all give and we all receive care. In our lives, we have people who care about us, and you notice that that icon is a heart. So that's emotional caring. How, you know, how we care about people, how we support them emotionally. We support people emotionally by showing them affection, or knowing the stories about them. So I always laugh when I think about my brothers. There are stories I know about my brothers that my mother doesn't know. There are stories I know about my nieces whose parents are both deceased. And often when they see me, they'll be like, Auntie Barbie, tell me about when I was little. Tell me what I did. And then a lifetime commitment. I'm going to care about you for the rest of our lives. But we also receive. So who shows you affection? Who knows your stories? And who is committed to you for the rest of your life? And then caring for. And you see it's a shield. Sometimes it's a person with a roof over their head. And those are the physical caring. So who helps you every day? You know, does someone help you? Does someone help you with grocery shopping? And I don't mean just a paid provider, but, you know, in a family, how many of us call somebody and say, on your way home, can you pick up some of this? Who helps us with our money? And who helps us with being included? So who calls us and says, hey, you want to go try this new restaurant, or let's try this group? And who helps us advocate? Do you ask anybody to go to medical appointments because you do want someone else there? Or if you get frustrated talking to the cable company or the bank or somebody, do you call somebody and say, could you be on the call with me? Or could you call them? I'm tired. I can't do this. We recognize that we all live in the context of family, and we define who family is. It's not necessarily people we're related to biologically, but it can be people that we feel close to in our heart. So think about who you consider family. Think about those people that are just such good friends. I grew up in a Greek American household, or culture, I should say culture. And I call people aunt and uncle. I call people other terms of familial relationships, and they're not related to me, not at all. But I better call them aunt and uncle, because that's what we consider them. And there's other terms that don't translate well into English. I also have a good friend, and I don't have sisters. I never had a sister. And she does have sisters, and yet she calls me her sister, and I consider her my sister. So it's not just your blood relatives. It's also the people that you feel close to. And please don't think that family are the people who live close to us or who attend meetings. If any professionals are on the call, you know, families don't like our meetings. And so just because they don't attend doesn't mean they don't care about and care for the person in their family. It just means they don't like our meetings. So I talked before about the 3 buckets of support. And we all think about anytime you have a need, you want to go on vacation. What do? You need information, the blue bucket. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? What's there? Am I going to use an Airbnb? That's the goods and services, the mustardy colored bucket. Am I going to go to a hotel? What do I want to do when I get there? And then the orange bucket, connecting and networking, talking to other people who have been there. So I know I see all the time on Facebook, people posting, I'm going to go to London on vacation. Anybody got any good resources for staying in this neighborhood? Or anybody ever go to this resort? What do you think about it? We do this all the time without thinking. We don't sit there and go, I've got to fill my 3 buckets. But we do this as a natural part of addressing a concern or an outcome. As professionals, if there are any professionals on the line, we need to think about how are we filling the buckets when we support people and talk to them? How are we giving them information? How are we telling them about goods and services, not just through the system, but what's available in their community? And how are we helping them connect to other people? I shared SibNet, which is a closed Facebook group for adults who are brothers and sisters. On the bottom of the slide, there is a way for families in Ohio to connect with other families on closed Facebook groups that the Department of DD overseas. And they are closed Facebook groups. They are groups for families to get online and ask each other, do you know this provider? What do you like about them? Do you know anybody in this area of Ohio who does this? So helping people connect and not just thinking about we have parent meetings or family meetings, but how do we help people connect virtually? One of the most common tools that you will see used, and one of the most common tools that we share with people, is the portfolio. It's actually made up of 3 tools, and I'm going to go through them each. On the front of the portfolio is something called a 1-page person-centered description. And as I said, we always ask why. Why do we use this? We use it because we want to shift the way we talk about people. We always have typically talked about disabilities first. You know, I have a 35-year-old brother with autism, and he goes to this day program, lives with my parents, and is on this medication. Well, oh my goodness, who wants to be defined by your labels and your medication? So this is a way to talk about who the human being is. There are 3 sections. The first section is what do people like and admire about me? And that's what the qualities, not what they do. What's important to me and how to best support me. We also, you can do a Word document. It doesn't have to be this form. Please, 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 please. And I tell people put a photo on it. Because when people see a photograph, they see a person. Under let me make sure I didn't skip. Yes. Under like and admire, what we want to identify and help the person identify is what qualities do they have, not what they do, not that they're in Special Olympics, not that they work at a restaurant, not that they work in an office. That's what they do, but who are they? What are their qualities? Are they helpful? Are they funny? Are they enthusiastic? Are they friendly? Are they ambitious? They keep working and trying. When we talk about important to, there are 8 areas. They're listed: relationships, rituals, routines, all the way through cultural identity. And so it's not just the holy trinity of going to Walmart, bowling, and going out to eat at McDonald's. It's really in-depth information. So who's important to them? Not just friends and family, but names, because we don't like everyone in our family. So who's important to them? Who provides them comfort? Who do they miss if they don't talk to? And important too are the things that give us comfort that we would miss if they weren't in our lives. And then how to best support me. Instead of talking about what people cannot do, we identify what other people need to do. So when you teach me, show me, tell me, show me, watch me, and then tell me how I did. Don't tell me what to do, give me choices. Remind me to wear headphones in a noisy place. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. Follow the behavior support guidelines. It's not what needs or deficits people have, but how to help them, how to provide that support. Here's just an example of my brother. You see it's not on the form, it's a Word document. You see great things about him. He was ornery, intuitive. You see under important too, I tried to capture relationships, status and control, people to, things to do, places to go, culture. And I love the bottom one. He liked to go to the bar and have his 7-7 while he watched the Indians games. I know they're the Guardians now. Under how to best support, these are in quotes because he said them. Please don't use I, me, my unless the person said it. And it tells people what to do. It doesn't say he can't feed himself. It says use a spoon to feed me. I just want to show you a couple of examples. This one is written for a baby. Obviously, he did not write it. His parents did, okay? This is for Maxwell as he got older. This is for Liam, but it's only for medical appointments. So a lot of things like if you're going to use the stethoscope, let him touch it, let him feel it, let him put it on his chest. This is another one that Elizabeth made for herself. And this is one used for Tammy. It is like the cover sheet of her plan. So it refers to additional pages. So we use the one-page description as an introduction. Here's a quick way to learn about somebody. It could be a summary. It's only one page, and there's a reason it's one page. Everyone will read one page. People that I've worked with have said it really helps with their self-esteem to think about, wow, and ask people, what do you like about me? And oh my goodness, they're like, oh, I didn't know people thought that about me. And also for if any of you are working with kids in transition, it helps them identify accommodations. So people could have many copies, one for maybe school, one maybe for if they're going to volunteer somewhere, one for the doctor's appointments, one if they go to the hospital. And I always tell families, keep multiple copies, keep one in a plastic sheet protector where somebody can see it. We also have encouraged people to write one for hospitalization, especially during the COVID pandemic at the height, but also we see the value for any hospitalization. And what would be written for hospitalization is going to be different than a typical one-page description. What do people need to know in the hospital? So here are some examples. You know, make sure I have my cell phone, tell me what's happening, introduce yourself, have the chaplain visit. And then how to best support, tell them how to use the call button, how to position them, how they express pain, or what to do if they're anxious, who to call, how to give them their medication. Here's an example of my brother's when he was hospitalized. So how to put him in bed. I can answer yes, no questions. He used a laptop with voice output. If he was in the hospital, he could not be positioned to use that laptop or that assistive technology. So we just asked the medical professionals, ask him yes, no questions. He cannot or move his eyebrows. And his yes, no questions, his answers were very, very reliable. It's important for them to know he couldn't feel pain on his right side. So you know what they do in the hospital. They always ask, what's your pain level? Well, he couldn't feel pain on his right side. So it only gave them information about pain on his left side. So here's some ways, different ways you can use a one-page person-centered description. And our vision is that it's used to be human-centric, talk about who the person is, that it's an introduction, a summary, it helps with self-esteem, with accommodations, and it's simple to read. It's not a demographic sheet. It doesn't say where they live, who their guardian is, what medication they're on, what services they get. Doesn't even identify disability. So let's talk about a good life. These are some general themes. We all think we have a good life because we have friends or family, that we get to do the things we like to do. And it's also important to identify what you don't want. So here's an example of Ben's good life. This was completed by Ben and his family. And just something to remember is that we want people to work towards their good life. But if they start going towards what they don't want, that we help them get back on track. So you know what Ben does not want, as well as his family does not want, is that he has poor health, he lives in poverty, he's segregated, and he's treated differently. This is called an expanded or planning trajectory, which looks not only at what kind of life does someone have or want, what don't they want, but also what's happened in the past. What were their past life experiences that is helping them get to that life they value? And what did they do in the past that took them down towards what they don't want? And so they learned this is not what we want. In the middle, what do we need to do in the future to keep on track towards what we want? And what do we need to avoid in the future so we don't go towards that life that we don't want? So you may hear at the showcase people talk about the trajectory and helping people identify their trajectory. They may have helped people do an exploring trajectory, just looking at what they want and what they don't want, or a planning trajectory, looking at the 6 boxes, including past experiences and things to do in the future. Whenever we're having conversations with people and gathering information, we also want to remember to never define someone by their past. Just like I would never introduce you and say, you know, she was in a bad relationship in her past 10 years ago, or he maxed out his credit card. That's something that happened in your past. It's a lesson. It's not a life sentence. So here's a simple trajectory or a trajectory for exploring. I like to use this with people with lived experience initially to get them to think about what kind of life they want, not what services they get, and not what we've told them. I want to get a job. I want to live in the community. I want to be independent. Those are all things we've taught people to tell us. But we need to know what that all means to them. And then here's the expanded or planning trajectory with 6 boxes. Again, the trajectory helps people identify their personal outcomes. You do not do this in a meeting. You do not sit in an IEP meeting or an IFSP or an ISP meeting and say, let's do a trajectory. You can start the conversation with someone and explain to them why you're doing it and write the information down and then give it to them to think about on their own time, in their own comfort level. We want people in early intervention to start thinking about the life they want for their child. And the trajectory can be broad, what I want in my whole life, or it could be very narrow. What I want to do during the summer, what I want to do as far as the social domain, meeting new people, or it could be getting a job. It could be very narrow. It could be very broad. It could be short term. What do I want to do for the summer? It could be for the next year. It could be for 5 years. Here's an example of people who developed their trajectory using pictures. They drew, they wrote. And now let's talk about the domain. Sometimes people have a hard time identifying, well, what do I want? Because we've taught them to tell us their goal, the goals that we want to hear. So there are 6 domains. They're all interrelated, and they're the way we talk about our life. So think about when you meet someone, what's the first thing you ask them? What do you do? Daily life and employment. Where do you live? Oh, I know people who live there. Do you know so-and-so? So we start talking about, do we have some mutual connections? Do we know the same people? You might ask them, do you go work out? Do you walk in the parks by where you live? We talk about healthy living, what we do. We're on this kind of a diet, or we're working out, or we're taking a yoga class. Safety and security. Do you feel safe in your neighborhood? Not just safety and security the way we've talked about it in the past, but staying safe. So do you know what to do in emergencies? Not just tornadoes and fire, because we've done tornadoes and fire drills with people for their whole life. But what about weather emergencies? What about power outages? How do people feel safe enough to make decisions? Do they know their legal rights? Do they know alternatives to guardianship? And advocacy and engagement, how we contribute. So what do we probably felt a loss in advocacy and engagement in our own life during COVID, because maybe we couldn't volunteer. Maybe the activities that we engaged in were not available because everything was shut down. How do we vote? Do we participate in any community groups? Do we advocate? I'm part of the Sibling Leadership Network, advocating for the rights of our brothers and sisters. Do we have any leadership roles? This is the vision tool. Again, in the first column, the symbol; in the second column, some language describing it. And I like to give it to people because they can fill out, what is my vision? Where do I want to live? I've had people draw. I've had people ask someone to scribe and write. I've had people can fill it out. I've had families. I've had mom and dad do separate vision tools so we can look. Staff can do one from their perspective. So we value all perspectives, and all you have to do is write who you are and your perspective. Why do we ask for different perspectives? Because we want people to feel heard and part of the process. We value the family's perspective. It also helps us identify where there's common areas. Oh, everybody agrees on this. We can work on this. Or where there's differences, and maybe we need to have more conversations. So to use the trajectory, our why is we want people to think about their good life, to organize their thoughts of their vision, not just programs and services, but thinking about those interrelated 6 life domains. We want the person and the family to do this. Staff can start the conversation, take notes, and hand the paper to the person in the family. It's their paper. And people tell us having the paper gives me paper power and paper courage. It is not done by a team, and it is not done in a team meeting. Another very common tool that is part of the portfolio is the Integrated Support Star, where we have people think about 5 areas of support, not just eligibility. And the reason we do this is our vision is that the person, the circles on the left, is supported in their family, in their community with integrated supports represented by the stars that have 5 points, 5 areas. This is also in line with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid that says the person should have the life they want in their community. So there are 5 areas. They're all defined here, but I'm going to just take you through a quick example. So in the middle, we would put whatever that concern is, and then we would brainstorm around the star possible supports. So think about going on vacation. What are your personal strengths and assets? Well, that you know you want to go, where you want to go, maybe that you know how to plan, that you have money, that you can save. Who can help you? Relationship-based is who can help you that isn't paid to help you. So you can talk to friends. Have they been there? Maybe family's been there, but also acquaintances. Who do you know who might know somebody? So who knows some information? Maybe who has connections or who's been there? Technology. Think about when you plan a trip. What technology do you use? Do you use navigation? Do you use a GPS? Do you look at TripAdvisor? Do you use Google Maps? Do you look at hotel websites or Airbnb? Do you book your airline or rental car online? For me, I pack my coffee maker. That's technology. It makes sure that I have a good life when I travel. I pack my electric toothbrush. That's technology. It helps me get through my day. So don't just think about big technology, but also think about that technology that you use. Your smartphone for an alarm clock or for navigation. Your smart watch, if that's what you use. What's available in the community? Community-based is anything that's available to anybody. So the library, going to a travel agent, and then eligibility specific for travel. Do you collect hotel points or airline points? Do you belong to any kind of credit union or club that gives you reductions? Does your Visa or your credit card give you points? I belong to BJ's. Do you belong to Costco? That still has always been the cheapest way to rent a car. Do you get senior discounts because of your age, like some of us do? This is a split star. It helps you identify what supports you have currently, but also what supports you may look to develop. And again, it helps you brainstorm what's out there. So for the integrated star, why do we use it? We use it to brainstorm supports beyond just the system. I like to start with personal strengths and assets because then it's strengths based and people can help. It helps people identify, oh, I do that. I can do that. And end with eligibility specific. Why? Because people tend to go towards eligibility first, supports versus looking at their own strengths. So whenever we use Charting the Life Course, we need to know why we use the tool. We need to explain it to the person. And please know that you don't have to use every tool on one person or a specific tool on everybody. You pick and choose related to why. And please make sure you give the paper to the person. Again, we talked about 8 guiding principles. You'll hear people talk about that. And here are some highlights that are coming up from the FRNO. We have our community of practice tomorrow, our showcase on the 12th. If any of you know families that would like to know more about how to use Charting the Life Course, we're doing a series of 3 evenings. May 18th, 25, and 1st. We're going to do a live event on how to use Charting the Life Course to look at respite, not necessarily the service, but respite, getting away from caregiving, taking a break from caregiving. And on the 16th, we're doing a session for SSAs, professionals, and anyone else who wants to attend. Please sign up on frnohio.org and like our Facebook page. And here's all the resources are available on lifecoursetools.com. And here are some of our partners and some websites. And I thank you for your attention and thank you for attending. And I don't think anyone had any questions. But if you do, I will stay on for a few minutes. Please feel free to type in chat or even unmute. And I hope to see you at the showcase and at some future opportunities to learn more about charting the life course and how to use it, how to apply it. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bridget.